Hi guys. So today's video is quite exciting because many of you know that I'm going to be having character art in my book, and today I'm going to be sharing some of that character art with you, along with giving you some information about the different countries and what the different people from those countries look like. Alrighty, so we're going to start off with a view of the entire world. Because Peace and Turmoil is epic fantasy, we do encounter characters from all over the map. Because we're talking about characters and character descriptions and various races throughout the world, I thought it'd be super helpful to just kind of see a bird's eye view of all the different places and kind of get into from there who comes from where and what those people look like. Book 1 does primarily take place in the right half of the map, so we can just go ahead and kind of ignore the countries to the left. Most of our characters are from 4 of the main countries on this side of the map. I will give brief descriptions of what people look like from all over this side of the map, but the 4 main countries we'll be talking about are Zenith, Cydia, Siddhaye, and Eve. I have color coordinated the arrows pointing to each country because eye color is a huge indicator of where people are from. So in Zenith, you have people with light blue eyes. Cydia, people tend to have darker blue eyes, not always, but most of the time. And in Siddhaye, primarily green eyes. The reason the arrow pointing to Eve has multiple colors is not necessarily because the inhabitants have many different colors of eyes, but because Eve is a country that there's not much known about in book 1, and the only character of any notable significance has eyes that swirl between different colors. That said, there are a couple of very, very minor characters that are mentioned that are from Eve, and they do have brown eyes, so we can go ahead and safely put a brown arrow. Since we're already talking about Eve, we'll go ahead and start with that one. There isn't much known about Eve. Most of the book takes place in the continent of Abraham, but the people of Eve are known for having very, very dark skin and, generally speaking, very dark, thick hair. One of the main characters we meet from Eve, named Cydia, is described as having very dark, thick, curly, long hair and dark skin. She is an exception when it comes to the eye color. She is the one that has the eyes that swirl between different colors. Jumping back over to the main continent of Abraham though, next I want to talk about the country of Siddhaye. I have done an entire video dedicated to Siddhaye, its political history, all of that kind of stuff, but most of you are familiar with Siddhaye because you have seen this image of Dietrich. I've also done a whole video about Dietrich, but because this is about character descriptions and races in the book, the characters that come from Siddhaye are described as having dark golden colored skin with prominent emerald green colored eyes and, generally speaking, either brown hair or black hair. Next, we'll jump on over to the country of Zenith. Because of some political events transpiring throughout the book, Zenith is where a lot of the book takes place. Because Zenith is a much older nation in comparison to Siddhaye, the appearances of many of the people that come from there is a little more varied. People tend to have lighter skin there. Sometimes they have freckles or sometimes they have slightly darker skin, but for the most part, they have lighter skin with colored eyes, primarily some kind of shade of blue, and then their hair color varies anywhere from dark brown to blonde or sometimes even red. Speaking of red hair isn't exactly common in Zenith, but it can happen occasionally, and it is the color of hair that the heir to the throne, Guinevere of Verigrad, has. She's also described as being quite short and with turquoise-colored eyes. The height isn't exactly common in her kingdom, but I would say that generally speaking, Zenith's people are smaller than the people that come from Siddhaye. Switching now to the kingdom of Cydia, I've actually circled this kingdom along with Zenith and the country of Riverdy way down to the south because, for the most part, a lot of the people's appearances at Cydia is very similar to Zenith. There is some historical reasons why this is the case, one being that if you look, the dividing wall divides the eastern and the western sides, hence why the appearances are so different. However, Zenith and Cydia aren't divided by any prominent landmark, so they have actually been allied in the past, and often their appearances are similar because they used to be essentially one group of people. One of the main characters that comes from Cydia would be the heir to the throne, Roland Lawless, and he is described as being kind of the epitome of a Cydian. He's stockier built, blue eyes, and blondish colored hair. That's it for the 4 main countries that we see in the first book, although there are some other characters that are mentioned in, like I said, the right side of the map. Starting on the right-hand side, we have the country of Prianthia, and the people there are described as having dark skin, dark brown eyes that are so dark they're almost black, and then dark hair. They're also described as being both tall and rather stout, so they're quite intimidating when it comes just to their stature. Moving just a little bit west, we have the country of Yendor. The people there are described as having very sharp, angled features. They tend to be tall, but unlike their Prianthian neighbors, they're not really muscular in build. They tend to be leaner, and they also have dark hair and golden colored eyes. To the northernmost point of the continent is the country just titled the Arctic, and the people there have very different appearances from most of the rest of the continent. They have the darkest colored skin of the people mentioned, and they also have very light blue eyes and white hair. To the south, and I did mention them a little bit briefly earlier, is the country of Riverdee. We don't actually have any of the main characters from Riverdee, and as you'll find out in the book, most of the time the characters do spend there isn't exactly mingling with the locals. It is a country, though, that is kind of considered an ally to all, so it's kind of expected, especially given that it's along the coast, that you're going to find people of varying appearances from very different places. The last place I want to mention is the Dividing Wall, and the Dividing Wall isn't necessarily its own country. At this point, it actually belongs to Siddhaye, or at least the eastern side of it does, and that's the side that actually has some inhabitants. Those inhabitants tend to be people from all over both the western and the eastern parts of this side of the continent. It's one of the few places you'll actually find both Siddhayans and Prianthians, and if you watch the Siddhaye video, you know that those two countries do not get along. There are occasionally people from Zenith and Cydia and Riverdee that make their way over to the eastern side of the Dividing Wall. People don't really live on the western side of it because that's a forest inhabited with these monster-like creatures known as fiends. And the reason that I'm bringing all of this up is because this giant mountain range that divides the western and the eastern parts of this half of the continent is home to what I suppose you could call a character in the book, and that would be a dragon named Cydia. Something I have been so excited about with beta reader feedback is that everybody tends to like different characters, and that's something that I was striving toward when I was writing this book, because people are going to connect with different people in life, so I wanted people to connect with different characters throughout the book. However, I would say hands down, everybody loves Cydia, and so I felt it was necessary to include her in this video. She is a dragon. I don't want to give too much away about how she's possibly a character, but I will describe her because we're describing lots of other characters, and she has dark charcoal colored scales. She has horns that kind of come from out of her head. She has wings, of course, because she's a dragon. She also has these spike-like quills that come out of her neck, which are very convenient handholds for anybody that might potentially ride on the back of Cydia. And while you can't really tell because of course the pictures are black and white, Cydia's eyes are considered a kind of icy color, bluish white. That's it though for all the different character descriptions. I hope you guys enjoyed this very, very much. I've been so excited to share with you some of the character art. But anyway, as always, thank you so much for all of your continued support. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Bye.